So welcome to the Cleveland Developer Group. This is the third in our Lunch and Learn series on debugging. Orlando Briceno Gomez today is presenting on Nebula Logger. So I'm going to let you take it away, Orlando.
Thank you all for joining. Yeah, didn't write a slide to introduce myself, but yeah, you know me. I'm a colleague of the Cleveland Salesforce Developer Group with Linda. I work in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I have a funny title of Salesforce Architect, but I do a lot of development work, and because of that, I got interested in this tool, which has been really helpful to me. On the previous sessions, we've seen logs, but the out of the box native logs from Salesforce, which are text based, and a lot of the times those are super long, kilometers and kilometers long, and I tend to get lost in them. Especially when I found this tool, Nebula, I was doing a lot of integration jobs. Um, and it was hard for me to find the specific log text file where the process that I was interested in will reside. So here comes Nebula Logger. Um, Nebula Logger is this nifty tool created by Jonathan Gillespie. The first time I heard of it, or read of it rather, it was in this blog called Joys of Apex, which for the most of the time it goes way above my head. It's like reading philosophy. You're like, oh wow, this sounds super interesting. I don't understand anything, but the entry for Nebula, it was more relatable. It was like, oh yeah, I can use this. So really the project is super well structured, super well documented, and in the resources I'm going to share at the end, including that Joys of Apex entry and some others, there's going to be a lot of background on how it was developed, how it was designed. If you go here, and I'm going to share the link for the GitHub project, it's super well documented. So you'll come here to install, and you have the option to use the CLI or go directly to this buttons and install as an unlocked package or a locked package. The suggestion is to go with unlocked. You'll get the whole source code and you'll be able to inspect things. Part of the and we're not gonna go deep into, actually we're not going to see any of the design decisions about the tool, but one little thing that I want to mention is that for example, it does leverage platform events a lot, so you could look at them and see how they're constructed, and you can create triggers that will listen for those platform events. And something very interesting you could do is in an external system, subscribe to the platform event channel and see if there was a log published about something you're interested. Um, After you install just one little thing that you have to do, it's assign a permission set to your user. There are a few, three ones. End user, creator, and admin. For demo purposes, I went ahead and assigned the admin permission set to my user. So that's pretty much all you need to do. The installation is pretty regular, like kind of like an app exchange package. Um, you'll just have to decide whether to install for all users, only admins. I went for all users, but only admins will be just fine. I guess for the most part, those will be the ones using these capabilities. So this is the the home view of Nebula Logger. Right now, it's all empty. I cleared everything before the demo. Mm, let's do something really simple. And this is right straight from the GitHub project. I already have it here. So here we're firing some logs, and they have different levels of logging: errors, warnings, info, debug, and so on. And at the end, we have a save log statement. So we're going to execute this. And definitely, this is not what we are looking for, but just interesting to see. These are logged in the standard Salesforce text-based logs. But okay, now we're going to Nebula. So they have built in an event stream listener. So it's listening for all the platform events that Nebula is firing to log or messages, log or debug statements. So here we can see them all. This is, again, not what we're looking for, but just interesting to see. So this is actually the really, for me, it was magic. It was so helpful to me. So Nebula is a record-based logger. So here we have a log, and inside we have all the log entries from what we log in the anonymous console, and we have the different levels, right? Like an error log, a warning, info, and so on. And if we go inside, we get more information, like the unique identifier of the transaction, the platform event that was published, the message. And if this was part of a more complex or involved code, will get a much larger stack trace. Like, this came around from this method calling this other method, which in turn executed this process and whatnot. So it's really useful. And as you can see, as part of the log, all are together as part of the same transaction. So this is it. I think you're dying to go try it, to try it yourself, and that you're having a lot of use cases in your imagination right now that you want to go check. So really, thank you all so much for joining. I'm kidding, but really, with just that, I think it's exciting enough for everybody to just say, like, yeah, I want to try this right now. So that was just a little anonymous Apex. I'm gonna do something now a little more elaborated. So I have this API call out, and I'm using this nifty placeholder for API tests. So it's just gonna do a GET request to this endpoint, and it's just gonna log the responses. That is it. Let's execute this. Go back to Nebula Logger. Refresh. As part of the log, there are 2 entries. I'm gonna go there, and oh, we got an error. So what is it? Let's see. So a little longer stack trace. It started from an anonymous Apex call. Then it was the sample API callout class and this particular method, line 10. Line 10, and this is the exception. Unauthorized endpoint. Let's go to the code, line 10. This is where it happened, and this is what was logged. So that's simply because I didn't authorize the endpoint on purpose for us to see that exception. So the remote site settings. And activate it. Okay, let's execute again. Need to remind myself to make code text larger for everybody to be able to see better. So, okay, we'll see. Now we got a new log. And now it has 5 entries. So this is just a plain text message. The HTTP status response, status message, and the body. Here's and it's a big response. That's all the JSON it has. Stack trace, and there are other things like the limits we have incurred within the transaction. Like there were no SQL queries, and there was SQL. I wonder why. But yeah, it will help us check for how much usage we're having with that transaction. Something they decided to do in the Nebula Logger app is to make it console-like. So you have tabs for each thing you open, which can be helpful, and sometimes it can be, I don't know, a little messy. I found, but it's so good. So now we're gonna go with another example, more involved each time. So we're now gonna use 2 things. This again is gonna make an API call to this endpoint, and we're gonna fetch a post. That's what this sample placeholder API has. Where all the posts, the logs. And then what we're gonna do is iterate through the responses. And I created a platform event, a very simple one, and I'm gonna publish a platform event for iteration, and then I wrote a trigger listening to the platform event. If you can notice, it's __e instead of the regular __c for custom objects. And basically what we're gonna do is create records in a custom object I created called posts. And this is just for demonstration purposes. I'm gonna iterate through all the post records that are inserted and log them. Again, you can see save log at the end. So now let's do this. I wanted to show you this. It's not related to Nebula Logger specifically, but I installed this little tool, streaming monitor, that will allow us to subscribe to a channel of events. In this case, a custom platform event. And this is the custom one that I created. It's post receipt. We're going to subscribe. Now we're going to execute. And here, each time it iterates and publishes these events, we can see what what got published, the title, body, some other things. I a lot with some of the latest integrations I've been working on because I'm leveraging platform events to fire the integrations. And let's go to the logs. And we have a couple new ones. One, the class. So it just does a post callout service successfully fetch the posts. Here it is. And always at the end, it tells you that the the logs were saved. Now we're gonna go to the others. And we have a log for each one. And this is very useful. It gives you the object the log is related to. That's why I did in the trigger this loop to log all the posts that were created. So it's taking us there. This is a post record. Let me open that separately. And here are all the posts that were created. So far, so good. I'm guessing it's all very straightforward. So now I want to show that Nebula Logger can do logs in flows as well. So this is a small screen flow. We have just one screen element and there's a text input for us to enter something. And here's an Apex action element. And we're entering what we want to log, and we can say like what logging level, and if at this point is where we want to save the logs and so on. And if we wanted to add tags, we're gonna see tags a little later. Gonna go back. So right now we have 5 logs. Gonna run the flow. That's pretty much it. That was the screen. Now it executed the logging. And there's the log. That's what was entering the text input, and the origin was a flow called Nebula Demo. So you can log a debug statements in your Apex, in your flows, and like I said, for integrations and for processes where not everything runs in the same transaction, this is super useful. Instead of like trying to guess which one, and in a real environment, this is a dev org. In a real environment where you have a lot of managed packages and processes running all the time, whenever you execute something, you get, I don't know, tens of log files, and then you have to guess in which one what you're really interested in it's. So this is really gonna help simplifying. And Nebula also supports doing logging in components. This is an Aura component. basically VS Code to the org. So on a raw component, I could do directly here in the developer console. So there's a component. There are a few buttons for different levels of logging, which each one is gonna call the controller, which in turn, and this is not really even needed, but calls a helper that ultimately logs the log entry in Nebula. It's the important part where I guess it's kind of like importing this component to be used. So let's go for it. So we're going to do an info log. Slow priority. Yeah, there it is. Info log. Let's bump it a little. And I'm going to show you. But in the statement to do the error logging, I'm passing an extra argument than with the rest. It's a tag, Nebula, or a component tag. It could be whatever, really. So let's do that. This was an error log. And here in the Nebula app, you can go see log entry tags. Sorry, logger tags. So we have one log that has this tag name. Let's do another. So you can start grouping things with tags like, I don't know, this group of logs are all part of the same process that's part of an integration, and you group them together with a tag, and then you can see them all. And for where not everything runs in the same transaction, like a batch or a queuable. For an example of that. So here we have a batchable class. We start by logging some starting info. We save the logs. This will run in its own transaction. Forgot to mention this. We're saving the original transaction ID, the first one that starts. So and that it's accessible in the execute. Which runs in its own transaction, but we're setting which one was the parent log, and ultimately the finish, which again runs in another transaction, and we're setting the parent. Let's execute this. Right now we have 8 logs. I mean, recently given what you told me. Okay, there are a handful of new logs. Assuming this is the first one, starting the batchable logger example. And that was a single log. Then the following one has some more, basically just querying for accounts and iterating through them. But the important thing that I wanted to show with this example is that the first one gets chained. So it will tell us what logs are related to this, and that's all because we're setting this back to the parent log. So if you're all of a sudden your code is getting more complex and more complex, you have platform events, and those are being listened in a trigger. And in the trigger, you're executing a queuable with a future method, and all those will run in their own transaction. You can chain them, and we'll be able to track all the logs and have an easier time finding them all together. So really, this is all I have to share with you. Wanted to do a through between Apex, flows, Lightning components. We can log from all those three places, and we end up having which are easier to search. We can platform events that are being published, and if we can want to do a special behavior, like, okay, when we have an error level log, catch the event and send an email immediately. Don't wait for somebody to just come here and see the logs. I think it's a really powerful tool, and really you can go wild in your imagination thinking of all the applications you can use this for. Check the chat. If anybody has questions, feel free to unmute, or you can write in the chat. So we're gonna share the
So Orlando, there's a couple questions. Are you ready?
Right.
So one, can you do an overview of how I set this up in my dev org? If you already addressed it, it's fine. He did a little bit. He shared in the chat the link to the GitHub, and they actually have an unlock package or a managed package that you can install.
Yeah, precisely. Thank you, Linda. And yeah, Andrew, you can do it either through the CLI, or just you'll click, you'll authorize your whatever org you're using. In my case, it's already installed, so I think it's gonna ask me to upgrade or something along those lines. But for a new installation, it'll take you to that screen where it asks. I guess I forgot my password. Where it asks if you want to install for all users or for admins only. It's really straightforward, kind of like an app exchange package. But yeah, it's all in the GitHub project. And to address the next question about Lightning Web Components, it's really very similar to what we showed on Aura. It's just that I didn't show an example of this. Just import the logger component, and then you can use it in your JavaScript logic. It's pretty similar to the Aura one. Logger.error, logger.warn, and of course at the end, logger save log. Something curious.
Sometimes this threw me off.
If you do save log multiple times as part of the same transaction, Nebula is smart enough to know, okay, all this is part of the same transaction. I'm just gonna save once and show everything together. When we legitimately have different transactions, like in the batchable example, then each save log is gonna save for each of the transactions. And this is just scratching the surface. There's much configuration that could be done. Yeah, I haven't dealt with that a lot. Even tags I haven't used in my actual projects. I just use them for this demo, but now I see the value of them, and I'll start exploring. Also, I tag the logs in the batchable all together here, the related records, and we can see the names of each of the accounts. But yeah, so far, and that's because I don't work with components, but I've just done Apex logging. But yeah, definitely you can do Lightning Web Components and flows in Apex. It's a really full and complete logging solution.
Yes, Joseph, I will share out the recording as soon as I get it uploaded. So Orlando, you're on mute.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I was just saying that with the recording, we'll send a link also to the slides, and you'll have these resources for the GitHub project, the blog post. First knew about Nebula and a very cool video tutorial and a Salesforce developer podcast episode.
So Orlando, you're still muted, but are we good to stop recording?
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll do our follow-up in a moment.